These stories that you share with us, I mean, this isn't typical what you find in the financial services industry, and getting vulnerable with this, and how you ended up in these places, and talking about the changes that you've had, like I've mentioned multiple times already, because I'm fascinated by it, because you just don't see it a lot. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the vulnerability, the honesty, the storytelling, and like the like where you were to where you are now. And it's we need more of that. Is that a reason why you went down this path to start sharing your stories, to creating content? Because we started having conversations, like I said, it's been a couple years or so, and you wanted to then, you had to go down this path to better content, as I call it. And it's not better content, it's getting to these stories that truly matter. And it's very different than this transactional conversation that people would have in the financial services industry. And of course, I'm generally speaking, this is not everybody, but the conversation is about the product, the services, the bells, the whistles, the, whatever. And there's planning involved, and it's not bad planning. But there's more. There's something deeper there. And when you have these stories, if I'm a business owner, business leader, and I get to hear your story, and I can kind of relate to perhaps my story, there's a connection there. If you're leading me and my team, then also there's another connection there. So I think it helps with recruiting. I think it helps with client, client connections and what have you. Is that a reason why you set out to start down this path to creating content and to building your brand?
It is, without a doubt. I think in the past, I've always gravitated toward that technical stuff as well. Right? We got the best products, the highest comp, or the most technically savvy advisors. You should work with us. And there's a lot of technically savvy people out there in the market. And there's a lot of great companies as well. And so what I've realized over time is that the bond that we have with our advisors, with our staff, and of course our clientele is a personal bond. And it's when I sit down with a client for the first time, or a potential advisor, a new recruit, we're always talking about not where it is you are, it's where it is you want to be. And what are the roadblocks that are preventing you from getting there? And so they're sharing stuff with us that is their personal fears, right? Their goals for their kids or their family or their parents, or, the things that they want to accomplish for their community. And it creates a vulnerability and a bond, and a strong bond. And I just realized that, I think that at the end of the day, I never claim to be the smartest, the fastest, the strongest, but I don't know that you'll find somebody that's more vested in your success than me. And it's hard to be able to articulate that and build that relationship. And so, that's the messaging. I think more than ever, people want to work with people who are genuine and have their best interest at heart. And I want people to realize that my trajectory wasn't a skyrocket straight up, and as I just got here. And I think people always, I used to think, oh, the general agent, the managing director, they got it all figured out. They know what they're doing, and they don't worry about anything. And maybe some do, but I certainly don't. Right? I rely on the feedback from the team, the feedback from the clientele, the feedback from the market. And I'm just a work in progress, right? Hopefully someday I'll get there, but I'm just a work in progress, and I certainly don't have all the answers. And I think letting people know that I'm just a human being too, and we'll figure it out together, is a message that I want to be clear, and I want people to hear.
Sure. There's no prescription for it, right? Because all these things that you're doing, all this content that you're creating, all the conversations that you're having, whether they're recorded or not recorded, all the blog articles you're writing, it's one piece of content at a time. It's one conversation at a time. And you can't just lay out this, here's how to do it. Here's how I got here. Now go follow this track and you shall have it too. It doesn't work like that. And I think that's the beauty of content, of what you're doing, of telling these stories. And your stories can range from, a leadership, a story about someone in your office, a story about your moving from San Francisco back to the East Coast. It could be a story about you in the bar, or about the music industry. And that's, for us, for myself, as someone who's in the insurance industry, we have a life insurance brokerage group, to then have a transition into have a marketing company. To watch other people in the financial services industry, to me, is such a big deal that's doing what you're doing. And it's an incredible experience to be a part of it. And to see what other leaders at MassMutual across the country are doing, we're fascinated by it. We're here for it. Like, we want to do more of this. How can we create more? How can we tell more stories and create more content that's genuine, that drives in? It's not the old, like, let's go interview 400 people, let's hire 50 of them, and let's see if one or two of them can stick. That's not what we're trying to do. There's something way bigger here. And if we could tell these stories, I think what it does is it might vet the people out that really don't want to be there anyway. But at the same time, it might bring the people in there, say they are big believers in what it is you're doing in the industry and in someone like yourself, Joe. And I think that's what we need more of. And I think we commend the people that are out there doing it, because the industry, the insurance industry, the financial services industry needs it. It needs it in a big way. And the shift is happening now. Like when I started creating the content marketing company, we saw people in the financial services industry that shook their head. What are you doing? It doesn't make any sense. You're in the insurance industry. You can't do that. They want to box you up. No different than a stockbroker. You sell stocks, stay in your lane, and don't do anything else. And it was difficult because you have people saying that you can't do it. Well, then you had enough people out there, kind of like you had said about your father being your biggest fan. There's people out there that are saying, keep leaning into it, keep going in that direction, keep pushing yourself. And you have to tell yourself that as well. To then you fast forward, and some years later, people are asking you questions. People that would never have considered even talking to you about this are fascinated on their end about what it is that you're doing. And we're seeing that in the financial services industries, and it's in many different areas. It can be in software, right? But we're talking about the content, we're talking about marketing. And so I want to get into that too a little bit, and just the industry that you're in and where it was and where it's going, and some of the things that you're seeing, because obviously you're leading that path. Is it in software? Is it in teaming up with other people and collaborating, and not as much about competition? It's probably all of this stuff, right? Is it in the content? Is it in the stories that you tell, and not being so saying what everyone else is saying? You know, there's so much of that. Turn on the TV, watch a commercial. They're saying the same thing over and over again. Everyone's saying it. So how do you differentiate yourself? You don't. You have to have a brand. You have to stand for something. That's your uniqueness. And in an industry that is littered with so much of the same, having someone like yourself, Joe, that stands out, that's telling a different story, that's only unique to you, that's something that we can pay attention to. That's worth stopping, pulling over, and taking a look and say, like, what are they talking about? So I'll stop talking right there, but I want you to go down that a little bit, and what you're seeing in the industry and how you see people are reacting even to your content.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, I think times are definitely changed, right? If you think about, what leadership looked like back in the day, right? Early 80s, it's like that Gordon Gekko, right? Chest pounder, my way or the highway, right? All about making money and getting rich. And I just don't see that moving forward. Certainly not my personality, right? And so, we believe in servant leadership, and not just saying that. I know a lot of people say that. At the end of the day, if it's not good for the advisors, if it's not good for the staff, it's not good for me. And how do you attract? We always talk about getting the right people on the bus to hit the destination. How do you get the right people on the bus? And I think it's like-minded people that are going to, when the bus breaks down, are okay with getting behind the bus and actually pushing it sometimes. And that's just the reality of it. And so, to me, wanting to go out and be able to get people to know me, right, before we start to engage in that technical conversation of why MassMutual Capital District is the best from an advisor standpoint, or the best from a client standpoint. Let's get to know each other a little bit, because we're going to be working in close quarters with one another for a long time if this works out in whatever capacity. And I just feel super blessed to be able to handpick the people that I work with on a daily basis, right? I'm the last stop in that interview process with on the advisor side. And so, it is a challenging business, and there's a lot of roadblocks. There's a lot of pushback. And so when they're out building the business, we need to make sure that we create an environment here that we're able to build people up and lift them up when everybody else is trying to knock them down. And I want them to realize that I too get knocked down on a daily basis, right? We always talk about, in the beginning, building an advisory career, you quit once a week, right? It's like, is this the right thing for me? And I do still have that crazy head trash from time to time. And it never changes. To me, that's the leading indicator that you're doing something with your life. You're getting out of your comfort zone, right? If you're not a little bit unsure, anxious, and unnerved, you're not living up to your full potential. And so, nervousness is the indication that you're doing something right? That's usually that leading indicator. And so to be able to go out and let people know that I don't always have it figured out, and here's how I come to my conclusions. It's hard to articulate that and say to somebody, hey, we don't have it all figured out. We'll figure it out together. But through the storytelling, talking about my journey, right? I wasn't groomed to be an advisor, right? I had a very different background, and still to be able to be here, I hope that it just opens up people's minds of what the role is and what it means to work with an advisor, so that they can have some, some impact on their own lives.
I'm Eric Kasimov, and for all of us here at CADSource, thank you for listening to Content Matters. If you'd like to connect, you can find me on LinkedIn or Twitter. That's it for now.